Hello, lovelies. Sean J here. It's Thursday's Take. I hope this finds everyone fantabulous. And as always, this is for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is highly advised. So, I just wanted to follow up on my last Thursday's Take. There were some conversations started offline with some folks, so just wanted to clarify some things or confuse things more. It was based, last Thursday's was preferences. And I think during my spiel, I had mentioned two types of preferences, but did not distinguish them uh, from one another, and I should have. So that's just a follow up to that. And what that basically is, what I was driving towards is that there are a lot of guys who are using the word preference when it's actually a racial bias. And so those are very different things. So what I have found in a lot of, lots of word, several white guys is that they will say, oh, I don't like black guys. Or I don't do black, I don't do chocolate, stuff like that. And it's like, well, it's just, and then and their reasoning would be, they would say, it's just a preference. I just don't like black guys. And I find that interesting because black folks, black men, are a large swath. So we don't all look alike. We don't all come from the same background. So when you eliminate an entire group of men based on what you say is a preference, when in all actuality, it is a bias based in racism, that is what I mean. Now, you can have a preference for someone who's big, someone who's hairy. That's a preference because basically, if someone shaves their body hair and you start dating them and then they find out you like body hair, so they stop shaving, that's something that they can alter, right? However, when someone says another racial bias is to say that you don't like Asian guys, but again, large swath, and again, eliminating an entire group of men who are not inanimate objects. A preference could be you like Asian men who are from Malaysia, or you still, I don't know how that works, but that's not me, so I can't speak to that. But I think just to clarify, there are preferences that are aligned with actual desires that are created from either experiences or interactions with, getting to know a culture, and actually doing the work to not be a colonizer, an oppressor, someone who stereotypes that group of men so that you actually see that man. What I have found is that sometimes when a certain man is attracted to a certain group of men, that becomes a little fetishized, and that whenever another one of that group walks in the room, that person sees that person, but then the person you're with is like going, so is it that you just see black and you don't see the person? Because, right, so that's something that can be unpacked, conversation hopefully started with someone who does that. I did meet a guy a couple months ago or something like that, white guy, who likes black guys, but he doesn't like them in exclusion of other guys, right? So he desires to be with black guys because he has an affinity to them because of where he grew up. And so he has this innate ability to be with them. And he speaks very wokish. But he doesn't expect the black guy to have this huge dick or something like that. It's not that, where a lot of folks do that. So I think just to clarify, there's a difference between a preference and a bias. And a bias is generally rooted in something not positive, right? So that's my goal or my wish, is for people to look at that and be honest with it and call each other out on it in a nice, kind, and gentle way, of course, that you can. Anywho, so I think, because I know I have friends who have preferences, who are they prefer an Asian guy, they prefer a Latino guy, they prefer an Indian guy, they prefer someone who is understanding of them overall. And I think I I don't have a problem with that as long as they are doing the work to make sure that they are not stereotyping that person or that group, right? So if you see a guy, he's always with Latino guys, but they all look the same, that, could potentially be, I don't know if the word is problematic, but something to examine and make sure you unpack it to see what that is. I know a guy who liked black guys, but has always been with white guys, and and gets into a relationship with a black guy, and it's great. So that kind of, see how that was? The desire was always there, but the opportunity may not have been, right? So, but didn't exclude the other people. And for me, I think that's just the biggest thing. I know that the preference for black men to be with another black man is based on our affinity and our experiences, and the daily onslaught of microaggressions and things that come at us, the ability to be with someone who understands that and not have to explain it, or just to be able to vent and they know what you're talking about. Not to say you can't do that with a white dude, but there's a learning curve. So, and I had a nice check-in with my good friend Carrie, and I explained last week's Thursday's talk and a couple of comments, and she goes, send them to me. Now, she is a white woman, and she was like, a lot of white folks won't understand that need for people of color to be with other people of color or be with their own specific race. And she gave an example of, like, she goes on OkCupid and a white guy says, there's a question that says, do you prefer to be with a person of your own race? And she always says, if they say yes, she goes, oh, problematic. And I think white people have more of a greater options, right? That's just reality. They get to choose a greater choice. And we sometimes don't get that ability to be more versatile or be more specific without getting something at us for that purpose. So this may or may not make sense. I say if it doesn't make sense, ask someone, have a conversation to see where you fall. If you find that you are preferring someone, but it's based in a bias, be real about that. Examine it, unpack it, disassemble it, all that other fun stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to recap that, reiterate that, come back around about it, just so that folks kind of understand it. And if you don't understand it, I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking a question. My philosophy is, it is always best to ask a question instead of making a statement or making an assumption on something. Even if you think you understand what I'm saying, like, I know what I'm saying because I've lived that experience. It is my lived experience. So I'm speaking from experience, whereas you may not have lived it. You may have seen it, but not lived it. So just understanding that concept or that process a lot more fully, well, that's a little too close, didn't mean to do that, would be a great thing. And I know last week I said something about talking about interracial dating, but I don't think I want to touch on that just yet, because that is a very serious topic, which kind of piggybacks off of the preference and racial bias thing. But I think I want to talk to some people first before I open my mouth and just speak from my experience. But this is what Thursday's Take is my experience, my point of view. So just keeping it real. Anywho, I will check with you all next week, maybe with more juicy stuff and all this other fun stuff. And if you know me personally and you have a topic or something you would like me to touch upon, leave it in the comments. I know this started off as my dating experience or my adventures in dating. Honey, there ain't no adventures because there ain't no dating. So just keeping that all the way real. Anywho, so let's just say that. If you know a good-looking man who is stable, secure, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally, send him my way, honey. Please do, okay? I am looking forward to the challenge of getting to know a person and being vulnerable with them and sharing myself fully and completely. I mean that. I really, really do. I do mean that. So anywho, but no, right. DM me. I know people do the DMs and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I'm open to the experience. I'm open to the adventure, the true adventure, in finding a companion, a person to share my days with and part of my life. Because, they'll have their life and I'll have mine. And then we bring them together. So we have 3 things. Got that. So I want to wrap this up because I'm starting to ramble because I'm getting on a roll and it's not going to make sense. So I hope you all are fantabulous. I hope you maintain your fantabulousness. And remember to be fierce, be fabulous, and most of all, be you. Smooches.